Hello friends, welcome. Friends, on 23rd February 2024, TRAI has come out with a recommendation for introduction of calling name presentation service in Indian telecommunication network. Now friends, what does this actually mean? Now, everybody who is using mobile phone today knows that when you are calling somebody using their mobile phone number, your number will get displayed in the display of the recipient who is receiving the call. So that number clearly comes on the display screen of the mobile phone. Now what TRAI wants is that along with the number, the name of the calling party, the party who is calling, will also get displayed. Now, what is the advantage that the consumers will get, which TRAI believes out of this feature? The consumer will know the name of the person who is calling, and that will become a deterrent for the party to prevent indulging in all kinds of spamming and fraudster activity which takes place using mobile phone. And the call party will also become vigilant whether he or she would like to pick up the call or let this call pass, right? Because today you don't know who is calling and therefore you pick up the number, and sometimes most of the number, it is a marketing call and you get disturbed and you get terribly frustrated and you have start picking up numbers and therefore you have missed some of the important numbers which are trying to reach you, and therefore you lose that opportunity of getting always in a situation of getting connected and not missing important calls, right? So that's the whole idea about TRAI coming out with this recommendation. Now friends, I am going to use this video to explain to you that this recommendation, the way it is structured, is not going to fulfill the requirement which is envisaged, and I'll explain to you why. For that, I am going to use a diagram. I have created a diagram. And before I go through the diagram, I will also tell you that I have written an article in this subject, and I am going to pass on the link of this article in the description of this video, and you can go through it. Now friends, let me explain. Now, this diagram is a very simple diagram. What it contains is a original service provider, a terminating service provider, and a national long distance service provider in between, and then there is also can be international long distance service provider also. So the call flow is very simple. I don't want to make the things complex. So you have an originating service provider whose subscriber is trying to call a terminating service provider where the called party is present, means it is roaming or it is present in that particular operator's network. So you are here, right? You are basically part of the originating service provider's network and you try to call. So once you call, what will happen is there will be a call flow which will happen from the originating service provider. It will go through the national long distance operator and it will get terminated into the terminating service provider, and who will pass on the call to the called party. Two things happens. Before the call actually gets initiated, there is a signaling path through which the signaling takes place. If you see the dotted line here, originating service provider will have a signaling path, and that will be passed through the national long distance operator and will terminate to the terminating service provider. So this is a mechanism to inform the terminating service provider that there is a call which has been initiated, please accept the call. And this signaling path is used to transmit the mobile number information of the party who is trying to dial the called party, right? So the mobile information, that is a 10-digit number, is going to flow through the signaling path, and as soon as this mobile phone number is received at the terminating service provider, that party will then transmit that transparently into the mobile phone of the called party. So you will be able to see the display of the number of the party who is trying to reach you. Okay, that's as simple as that. Now, the TRAI recommendation says that this is not sufficient. The originating service provider should also be able to transmit the name of the individual who is trying to call, who is calling the party who is present in the terminating service provider's network. So the name of the individual should also flow through the signaling path, ideally. right? And then get terminated into the terminating service provider, and he will be able to look at that information and he will pass on that information on the mobile phone, right? Now there is an issue here. The issue is that what TRAI is saying, because TRAI has proposed various models. The first model, the model number 1, actually proposes this, right? That the originating service provider should map the name of the mobile phone, the person who is trying to call. The name is also going to get tagged on along with the mobile information. But the problem here is that the switches are in between, right? The national long distance operator switches, even the originating service provider switches, the signaling link is not capable of doing that, because many of our switches are not IMS capable, means not IP capable. You need to have a pure IP capable switch, internet protocol capable switch, they call SIP signaling, to able to accomplish what I am trying to explain to you right now. Since there are legacy switches in between, this thing is not possible. You cannot carry that information end to end to the terminating service provider, the name of the individual, and therefore that information cannot flow end through end. And in order for that to happen, huge amount of investment is required to be undertaken by the operator. So what TRAI is saying, TRAI is proposing, instead of this information getting transmitted natively by the originating service provider, that is the name of the individual, getting transmitted natively by the originating service provider, let the terminating service provider dip into the database, that is the CNAM database of the originating service provider, or into a centralized database to get that information. Means, let me explain again. So let's say you are dialing from the originating service provider's network, right? Since your name cannot be transmitted using the signaling path, but the number will get transmitted. So once the number gets transmitted and this number, your number is received by the terminating service provider, the terminating service provider, by looking at the number, will know which operator's number it is, and therefore it will dip into the database of the operator, that is the originating operator, and get the mapping of the name. Name information can be extracted, and that through that information it is going to get displayed into the mobile phone of the receiver. That is what it is saying. So either it can be extracted directly from the CNAM database of the originating operator or a centralized database. So this is in essence what TRAI is saying. I don't want to get into model 1, model 2, model 3 and all those things, but I'm just going to give you the essence. Now let me tell you what is the problem here. The problem is that unless and until in the originating service provider itself, the name is mapped directly with the mobile phone information, which is originating from the originating service provider in a secure form so that it can't be broken. This particular option which TRAI is giving, where it will poll the database directly from, after having received the call, is not going to be useful, and it will lead to a lot of nuisance. Why? Because, let me explain. Why? Because once a call originates from the originating service provider, it can go and terminate into somewhere in between, maybe a PAX exchange, or somebody may be there in between who can translate the original CLI, the mobile phone number, into a different CLI. It will do a transposition, and then instead of transmitting the original information, a new CLI will get transmitted and the terminating service provider will see a new number altogether. Means the originating number can be mapped into a different number in between the transit. That is quite possible today. Why? Because you might be knowing that there was actresses, the Bollywood actresses, there was a huge, big kind of a case which became very famous today, just a few days back, where somebody called from jail, and the CLI that got displayed in the actress mobile phone, or some somebody who was trying to be blackmailed, was emanating from the home ministry number. It was showing a home ministry number. How it is possible then? So unless and until, again let me repeat, unless and until the mapping happens at the originating service provider's network itself, at the point of call origination, in a secure manner which is tamper proof during the transit, this particular suggestion, all the models are going to be completely useless because tampering is possible in between the transit. Very easily it is possible. The CLI can be tampered with. So if somebody's number gets tampered with and he intentionally tampers it or presents it as if that it is somebody else's number in the terminating service provider's number, and he looks into the database, the SAM database or the CNAM database of the originating service provider, somebody else's name is going to get looked up and will get displayed. What is the purpose that is going to get solved then? Tell me. It's completely going to be useless. Na? Either you map it and then blend it in such a way that this encryption cannot be broken, this binding cannot be broken between the cell phone number and the user number, and that get transmitted end to end to the terminating service provider, and then only it get displayed. The whole proposition that is being proposed is absolutely of no value and completely useless because it can be tampered with very easily. Okay. The second issue is that when the calls are originating from other countries, which is coming in the international operators, right? Snooping can, there could be a lot of tampering which is possible. Let's say I have seen apps on mobile phones where if you use a particular mobile phone and try to make a call to a domestic number, that call will get routed from the international number with a different CLI, and that CLI is going to get transmitted into the international operators network through the national long distance operator, and it will get terminated into the terminating operators, and it will show a different CLI altogether. There is absolutely no guarantee that what number that you are receiving on your mobile phone is actually the valid number which is being from where the call has been made. There is no guarantee at all. So this is what is going to ensure that the binding of the name along with the mobile phone is sacrosanct and cannot be broken, and that has to be done using an encryption algorithm, and that encryption algorithm cannot be broken till the time the call is received at the end of the terminating service provider, and that is how the internet, all kind of internet services work, right? So unless you cannot ensure that, all these proposals are completely useless. It will make no sense at all. It will not, cannot be, even if it is implemented, it will not serve any purpose because it can be easily broken. Okay. The second point is that let's understand this. Today in India, everybody who has a mobile phone in hand, whether it is a marketeer, whether it is a fraudster, whether it is a scammer or spammer or anybody, has to go through a KYC process, right? Your biometric number has to be clearly, called for, and the biometric database is logged into, and it is verified. Then only your mobile number is assigned. Now, if everybody is going through a KYC process, and even the spammer or the fraudster the number is also going through a KYC process, then what is the point of even displaying the name? Even let's assume that there is no tampering which happened in between the network and the binding is not broken. Even the original name, if it comes on the mobile phone, what is the point in having that display? How will you know as a user that Ram, Sham or anybody who is calling is not a spammer, is not a fraudster? How will you know? You tell me. Is it going to be written there in the mobile phone display that this is a spammer, right? This is not it is a trustworthy individual. How will you ensure trust to that individual? Because you already have the number. So today, if suppose somebody calls and frauds you, with some money, the number is already there, and that number can be used to basically trace that individual. But if the binding, as I told you, the binding between the mobile number and the user is broken in between, and some kind of fraud takes place in between, and somebody else's number gets displayed, which is possible today itself, then you will not be able to know who the individual dialed. And this suggestion which TRAI is giving, that the Model 2, Model 3 and Model 4, out of these 3 models, not the Model 1 by the way, TRAI did not recommend Model 1. The Model 1 actually is the originating service provider send out the information. But again, this TRAI is not saying that the information has to be secretly or tightly bounded with an encryption key. It's not saying that. They are simply saying that the database of the originating service provider should transmit the information. But that also is not going to be useful, right? The tampering cannot be broken in between. Nobody can tamper with the transmission in between. That has to be ensured. So if that is not ensured, what is the utility in having this kind of service? You tell me, absolutely no. That is why, if you look at my article, I actually have given a reference in my article that this service was already implemented, this calling name party, capability feature in US and Canada, and the frauds could not be mitigated. So they have come out with a new concept called stir-shaken framework. Now, if in this stir-shaken framework, exactly what I mentioned to you right now, that the calling party number and name has to be tightly bounded with an encryption mechanism so that the fidelity of the transmission is not broken in between. That's the crucial part in order to ensure that the individual's number which get displayed is the individual whose name is also getting displayed in the mobile phone display, is the actual person who is calling. That is only, and what this framework basically ensures, if you look at this particular framework, they categorize the calls into 3 different categories. Let me explain to you, which is I have given this in my article. So what they've done is that they to the user, as an user who is receiving the call, I am not concerned about the name of the individual. I am only concerned whether I can trust that individual or not. That's what I care. I don't care who that guy is, because if there is an unknown person, whether that unknown person's name can be anybody, what do I know with the name of the person? I really cannot tell, whether the person is a credible person or not. So this system, which the US is trying to implement, which FCC has recommended and enforcing the US service provider to implement, is giving a kind of a tag or some kind of categorization, which is called full attestation A, partial attestation B, or gateway attestation C to a call, so that the individual know that this is an A category call, a B category call, a C category. A category call is the most trustworthy call. Means here the authenticity of the person is fully guaranteed. Means whoever is dialing, the network ensures that the individual who is dialing is the individual who is dialing. Right? That is called full attestation. The partial attestation means that he cannot verify, the origin cannot be verified. The call's origin cannot be verified, but the service provider cannot confirm if the caller is authorized to use this number, often seen in PABX system, which I explained to you right just before that. And gateway means that the service provider know from where the call came, but cannot, but not the caller's authenticity, common with international call. For example, if I am trying to fraud somebody and I want to change the CLI of the number, I go through an international gateway, come back within the country using a genuine number, Indian number, and that number gets terminated into the mobile phone of the calling party, then nobody will come to know from where the fraud happened, because somebody has tampered with the information, the CLI from at the path of the international gateway. Now, if I can tell, as a user, that the call which I am seeing on the mobile phone, the name of the party which I am seeing in the mobile phone is not a domestic individual who has not originated a call from a domestic place in India, but the call has come from the international, trunk exchange, then I will be cautious in picking up the call, right? So that kind of classification has to be enabled into the system so as to make the system useful. Otherwise, what is the point in displaying the name of the individual, right? Where you cannot guarantee the binding between the individual and the mobile number. You tell me. So I don't think, I went through this recommendation and I found the recommendation very shallow. It does not guarantee any kind of authentication, and it has got a lot of loopholes in between where it can be very easily misused. So you need to have a system like this, which FCC is currently implementing, the overview of the system you can go through, and I'm going to provide a link into the description of this the video, where you can see that what FCC is doing and how FCC is trying to implement this state-shaken mechanism, which is nothing but making sure that the binding between the caller and his name is not broken in between, and it is being held securely till the time the call is terminating into the terminating service provider, who through a private key can can extract that information. Otherwise, that information cannot be extracted. Right, friends? So I think probably you have understood, what is the implication of this, and we need to come out with a mechanism which is robust. Just doing something for the sake of doing does not make any sense, right? So I thought, that's what I thought of doing this video, so as to make it very clear. What needs to be done, what will be useful, and what will not have any meaning. And I hope that you have found this video useful, and let me know if you have any other questions. I'll come back next time with a new topic and a new video. Thank you very much.